Assalamu alaikum students, welcome back to the English online class. Today we shall proceed with the fourth poem, The Ant and the Cricket. Come, let's get started.
This is a very interesting fable. What is a fable? Fable is nothing but a story with the animals as the character, and it has a moral in the story. The poem The Ant and the Cricket tells us about the necessity of hard work and save for our future. Here, the poem The Ant and the Cricket tells us the entirely different attitude of both the insects. The cricket is always in the attitude of enjoying life without planning and hard work. It is always ready to live a life that is lethargic and lazy. Its main aim is eating and enjoying. When it could not get any food to eat, then only it realizes its problem and it is ready to beg and borrow food. In contrast, the ant is spending its entire time to gather food and eat when required. It has a sense of commitment, it has a sense of hard work. It does not go aimlessly anywhere. It procures food and saves it for the winter. That is why it is angry when the cricket approaches it for food and shelter. The ant's attitude is always steady and ready.
Students, now let's see about the author of the poem. Aesop's Fable is a collection of fables credited to Aesop, a slave and a storyteller believed to have lived in ancient Greece between 620 and 564 BCE. These fables became popular when they emerged in print. Several stories are attributed to Aesop even today. The process of inclusion is continuous and new stories are being added. Collection of Aesop's fables were among the earliest books to be printed in many languages. Students, now let's see the glossary of this poem. The first one, accustomed, which means used to, being habitual. Crumb, a very small dry piece of bread or cake. Third one, starvation. Starvation means suffering or death because there is not enough food. Suffering out of hunger, that is called starvation. Fourth one, famine. Scarcity of food, that is having nothing to eat, is called famine. Next one, trembling. Trembling means shaking. Next one, mouthful. The amount of food or drink that you can put in your mouth at one time. The very next one, lay nothing by, which means save nothing. Folks means people. Miserly means greedy. Selfish, greedy. The last one, gay, means happy. These are all the main synonyms. The others we shall discuss in the poem. Students, before seeing the poetic lines, I would like to explain this poem as a story. For your better understanding, I have attached a short story along with this video. The poet usually wants to give us a useful idea to follow in life. Thereby, he makes the animals as characters. These animals reflect human nature. In this, the ant and the cricket. He brings in the idea of living careless life of the cricket on the one hand and the careful life of the ant on the other. The cricket is dilly-dallying in both the seasons, that is, being happy in both the seasons, that is summer as well as winter. He could not find food in winter because the snow covers everything. He is in a state of starvation, that is hunger. He approaches his friend the ant for a crumb of food and a shelter. Ant replies that though he is his friend, he is not ready to lend a piece of grain. The ant questions what the cricket is doing when there is chance to gather grain. The cricket replies he is enjoying nature, singing and dancing. Then the ant scolds the cricket and asks him to continue his vagabond life and get lost. The poet tries to remind the reader not to spend time unnecessarily without procuring what you need for your life. So here is the story for you, the ant and the cricket.
The Ant and the Cricket. God says, share your joys and riches with those who are in need, but not with them who while away their time and a lazy and idle life they lead. Why doesn't the ant help the cricket? Read and find out. A silly young cricket, accustomed to sing through the warm sunny months of summer and spring, began to complain when he found that at home his cupboard was empty and winter had come. Not a crumb to be found on the snow-covered ground, not a flower could he see, not a leaf on a tree. Oh, what will become, says the cricket, of me? At last by starvation and famine made bold, all dripping with wet and all trembling with cold. Away he set off to a miserly ant, to see if to keep him alive he would grant him shelter from rain, a mouthful of grain. He wished only to borrow, he'd repay it tomorrow. If not, he must die of starvation and sorrow. Says the ant to the cricket, I'm your servant and friend, but we ants never borrow, we ants never lend. But tell me, dear sir, did you lay nothing by when the weather was warm? Said the cricket, not I. My heart was so light that I sang day and night. In a very happy way, you sang, sir, you say? Go then, said the ant, and dance winter away. Thus ending hastily, lifted the wicket, and out of the door turned the poor little cricket. Though this is a fable, the moral is good. If you live without work, you must live without food.
Now let's see the complete explanation of the poem.
Before beginning the poem, let us understand what are fables. Fables are short stories that convey morals, often with animals as characters who behave like human beings. The purpose of a fable is to teach lessons to humans about their weaknesses. Now, who was Aesop? Aesop was a slave, a storyteller who lived in ancient Greece. His stories have been passed down to us through a number of sources. Some are in story form and some are in poetries. The Ant and the Cricket is in the poetry form. Let us see stanza by stanza what does the poet tell us in the poem. Stanza 1. A silly young cricket, accustomed to sing through the warm sunny months of gay summer and spring, began to complain when he found that at home his cupboard was empty and winter was come. Not a crumb to be found on the snow-covered ground. Not a flower could he see, not a leaf on a tree. Oh, what will become, says the cricket, of me? In the first stanza, as we have read, the cricket is silly, young, and careless. He only loves to sing in the summer. Once he checks his cupboard at home, he finds that it is empty. The winter has come. He has not stored anything for the winter. He sees that there is no crumb. The ground is covered with snow. He cannot see any flower, not even a leaf on a tree. Thus, he understands and he realizes what will happen of him. at last by starvation and famine made bold, all dripping with wet and all trembling with cold. Away he set off to a miserly ant, to see if, to keep him alive, he would grant him shelter from rain and a mouthful of grain. He wished only to borrow, he would repay it tomorrow. If not, he must die of starvation and sorrow. In the second stanza, the winter has come. The cricket hasn't saved anything for the winter. He's dripping with water. He's starving. He's hungry. He doesn't have anything to eat. He's shaking with cold. Thus he decides that he should go to an ant. But the ant is a miser who doesn't like to spend, is very stingy. He thinks that the ant will help him to keep him alive and would give him shelter from the rain, or a mouthful of grain, or something to eat. He wishes only to borrow. He thinks that he'll repay it the next day. If not, then he must die of starvation and sadness. Says the ant to the cricket, I'm your servant and friend. But we ants never borrow, we ants never lend. But tell me, dear cricket, did you lay nothing by when the winter was warm? Quoth the cricket, not I. My heart was so light that I sang day and night, for all nature looked gay. You sang, sir, you say? Go then, says the ant, and dance the winter away. Now in the third stanza, when the cricket goes to the ant to ask for some help, the ant replies, I'm your servant and I'm your friend. I'm very helpful. But we ants, we don't borrow anything from anyone. We never lend anything. And the ant asks the cricket, didn't you save anything during the summers? Didn't you save anything for your future? The cricket says, not I. I did not save anything for the winter because my heart was light. I was happy. I sang all day and night. The ant gets angry. The ant says, you sang? You did not save anything? Go away then and dance the winter away. Thus, in the end, we come to know that the ant did not help the cricket. Thus ending, he hastily lifted the wicket, and out of the door turned the poor little cricket. Folks call this a fable. I'll warrant it true. Some crickets have 4 legs and some have 2. In the last stanza, what happens is the cricket is left with nothing. He doesn't have anything to eat. He doesn't even have shelter from the rain. He hastily or hurriedly lifts or opens the door and out he goes. Folks call this a fable. People call this as a fictional story. But the poet says, I'll warrant it true. He will call it true. Some crickets have 4 legs. That is the original cricket, the insects, and some have 2. The 2 over here refers to the human beings. The moral that we get from this poem is we must be responsible for our future. We must plan our future from the beginning. We must save for future. We must not spend our good times idly, and we must also secure our future in the bad times. So we must not be like the cricket, careless, silly, but we must be like the industrious ant who worked very hard and saved for the future.
Students, let's discuss the poetic devices of the poem The Ant and the Cricket. The first figure of speech is rhyming words. So what are the rhyming words given in this poem? Sing, spring, found, ground, bold, cold, rain, green, light, night, true, do, home, come, see, tree, aunt cramped, borrow tomorrow, wicket, cricket, gay, say.
Now let's see the rhyming scheme of the poem. In the first stanza, sing, spring, ye ye, home, come, bb, ye ye, bb. Second stanza, found, ground, ye ye, see, tree, bb. In the third stanza, me, ye, cold, bolt, bb, and grant, cc. In the fourth stanza, rain, grain, ye ye, borrow, tomorrow, bb, ye ye, bb. Sixth stanza, sorrow, friend, borrow, lend, buy, I. So there is no rhyming scheme. It's irregular. Moving to the next figure of speech, metaphor. Some crickets have 4 legs and some have 2. Here, some crickets have 4 legs means actually the cricket is compared to the 2 legs humans. Okay, so the crickets are being compared to human beings. That's why it is called metaphor. The last 2 lines, for all nature look gay, for all nature look gay. And it is repeated twice, so it is repetition. Moving to the alliteration. In the first line, starvation, sorrow, SS are the alliterated words. In the second line, when, weather, was, WWW. So it starts with the same consonant word W. So it is alliteration. You can see the same in the other 3 lines. Sang, sir, say, he hastily, folks, fable are the alliterated words. In the same way, it continues in the next 4 lines also. So the alliterated words are silly, sing, sunny, summer, spring, cupboard, come, was, winter was, what, will, with, wet, with are the alliterated words. Moving to the next figure of speech, anaphora. What is anaphora? When a word is repeated in the consecutive lines, it is called anaphora. So what's given here? All dripping with wet and all trembling with cold. All are the anaphora. He wished he'd repay, but we ants never borrow, we ants never lend. We ants never repeated twice. Some again. So these are the anaphora. Moving to the last figure of speech, personification. A silly young cricket, accustomed to sing, away he set off to a miserly ant. Here the cricket has been given the character of a human being like silly. Only humans can be silly. Here the poet has defined a cricket to be a silly young cricket. So it is personification. Moving to the next line, away he set off to a miserly ant. Again an ant here. It's called a miserly. An adjective has been added to ant called miserly. Only human beings are miser, that is very choosy. But the poet has defined an ant to be a miserly as humans. So the characteristics of human has been given to the ant. Hence it is called personification. So these are the figure of speech discussed in this poem, The Ant and the Cricket. So finally I would like to conclude that be like an ant and don't be like a lazy cricket. So that's all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.